place to scream and yell about what you just saw? Well, welcome into the right place. Let us be your rage cage. My name is Derek Montilla, formerly known as the mayor of PHNX. I'm joined, of course, by Mr. Electric, Shawn the Pause. Not so electric tonight. He's a little discharged over there. The vice mayor, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of furious about his involvement with Shane, but he's also Thunderstick still. It's Jesse Friedman. Boys, this loss sucked. This one sucked. This one felt like the Diamondbacks had this one in the bag early, maybe because of what we saw yesterday with the 9-1 victory, but this one sucked.
Yeah, I was just saying right before, or while the countdown was going, I was like, this isn't even like a I'm mad loss. This is just like I'm disgusted.
I'm disappointed.
I don't want
I'm mad at you.
I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. Right?
I want this series over with. I want to be out of Milwaukee.
Well, Cogs was there, so we had a lot going against us. So we know that was problematic. But also, Ryan,
real quick, I know people like to shit on Chase Field for being a warehouse.
Yeah.
On TV, it looks like they're playing in the dark.
They have the stadiums have some similarities. I do think the roof was open there, though.
Really?
I don't think
feels
it was
it
really
feels dark inside the stadium.
I was just in Wisconsin. The weather was not beautiful, but it was not hot. Not that you need to have the roof closed ever in Wisconsin unless there's like a tornado or something. But
again, big time snow in Wisconsin. What do you mean?
Do they get it during the baseball season?
In July?
Hey, I'm from up north. Oh, you would live to Circuit, you know.
I know. It was terrible. I hate the snow.
You
might get snow in May. You might get snow in May.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, you can get snow in especially April, like at the beginning of the baseball season.
Or October, not that they spend a whole lot of time playing in October.
I don't want to talk about the weather in Wisconsin. I want to talk about whether or not Ryne Nelson is good. His line tonight was not terrible, but this is a bad Brewers offense that he still gave up 6 hits and 3 earned runs and only went 5 innings. As Jesse said, based on what we saw out of him, you didn't want to leave him in to go a third time through the rotation because it really looked like they were figuring him out. Not that it seemed to do much once we got into the bullpen, but he did have 6 Ks tonight. It was encouraging, and based on some comments from Mike Hazen here that we're going to discuss in a moment, it almost feels like we need Ryne Nelson to be good. We need Tommy Henry or Ryne Nelson. Like the Diamondbacks right now with Zach Davies being, performing the way he is, they need somebody to step up. And, they're not going to replace all 3 of these guys. We know that for sure. But like at this point, it sounds like the Diamondbacks are not liking what the trade market is looking like. So Nelson really does need to kind of step it up.
Yeah, he absolutely does. This start was not a disaster for him by any means. I think he was worse his last time out against the Phillies. But yeah, I don't know if I would call this start encouraging necessarily. Like you said, the Brewers are not a high-powered offense. They really have struggled to score runs this year. 5 innings, 3 runs. You'll take that. It does sort of keep you in the game. But at the end of the day, it's kind of the same stuff, right? Ryne Nelson continues to give up a lot of hard contact. The Brewers' average exit velo against him tonight was 94, which is pretty dang high. 10 whiffs in this game, 8 of those on the fastball. He continues to have an issue where his fastball is good, but he just doesn't have any consistent secondary pitches on top of that. And as long as that's the case, it's going to be really hard for Ryne Nelson to survive very long in a major league starting rotation. So I didn't really see anything different in that regard today, which is why I don't necessarily think a whole lot changed in this one.
But what does that mean for the Diamondbacks as far as their starting rotation is concerned? Does that mean that Nelson is like now they're probably looking at still replacing Davies and Nelson at this point? Or, because obviously maybe there for a minute it didn't look like Zach Davies was going to fall apart like he has over his last few starts. So it feels like it's kind of compiling where, now they need to replace 3 out of the 5 men in their rotation or, what about Tommy Henry? Do you think Tommy Henry's still going to be viable?
I think we're at a point now where you like Mike Hazen and his team, they just need to be honest about like what their goal this season is. Like, are they seriously trying to win a World Series this year? Do they think that's really in the picture? Because if it is, then you need to replace Ryne Nelson and Zach Davies. Like that's not, or at least one of them. Like it's not, as the rotation sits now, it is not a World Series winning rotation. But the reality is that coming into the season, no one was expecting this team to win a World Series. So, and I'm not necessarily expecting them to now, but obviously the perspective on this team has changed a lot throughout the season.
That's such a hard thing because you don't want to all of a sudden start making dramatic, drastic moves in order to improve a team so that you can win now. But when the Dodgers fall back to third in the division and you've led the National League West surprisingly for as long as
your best opportunity, like the window's open.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes that's how it works, right? In baseball and sports, sometimes you didn't really expect the team to be as good as it is, but you get there faster than you expected, and then that next step would be whatever, you know, pieces they can add. But this is all happening during the course of one season where they went from being like a team that they didn't know if they were going to win 80 games to a team now that honestly is on pace or was on pace at one point to win 100 games, as crazy as that sounds. So, like, I don't know, but we do know that you said Ryne Nelson's start wasn't terrible, but that 7th inning tonight, that shit was terrible. We're going to talk about some positives from game 1 still, but game 2, that 7th inning was just gross. Ketel Nelson, definitely not good. The bullpen really struggled, but Ketel Marte was a big part of that reason. In this game, Ketel Marte giveth and Ketel Marte taketh away, because his offense was a big reason why the D-backs had the lead, but his defense there in the 7th inning could single-handedly be blamed for the reason why this game fell apart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at that 7th inning, starts with Luis Urias. He walks to start the inning, although I know the pit, it was a 3-2 pitch. You could argue that pitch was in the zone, but I don't think it was particularly, it wasn't really thrown where Carson Kelly was set up back there. So kind of understand maybe you're not going to get that call. So Urias walks, then you've got Blake Perkins to the plate for Milwaukee. He hits a ground ball, and Ketel Marte just inexplicably looks at second and just kind of waits, and then throws to first base very nonchalantly, and his throw was not even really close to on time. And so, you know, Perkins, it doesn't go in the box score as an error, but it was clearly a misplay and an out the Diamondbacks should have had. The next hitter is Joey Wiemer. Similar situation where instead of going the first guy with Perkins, he should have gone to second, he went to first, and the second guy should have gone to first, and he went to second. So you had back-to-back guys reaching on just misreads by Ketel Marte. If those 2 outs are made, then, you know, you still would have a base runner in Urias, but you'd have, you know, a guy on with 2 outs, and then the D-backs went and got Ketel Nelson. Christian Yelich grounded out. That would be the end of the inning. So theoretically, if Ketel doesn't make those 2 mistakes, then you're out of the 7th inning without any damage done. Instead, it snowballs. Like you said earlier, Ketel Nelson did not pitch particularly well. You know, left a slider right over the heart of the plate that turned into a 2-run double for William Contreras. And
Jesse.
William Contreras, yes. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because, you know, maybe Austin Adams wasn't going to have a sub-1 ERA the whole year, right? I mean, you kind of figured maybe there's some regression coming there. But at the same time, I mean, I think Austin Adams pitched pretty well.
These are soft ground balls. With 3 earned runs, that's for sure.
These are soft ground balls that have to be turned into outs. This is a game the Diamondbacks should have won pretty clearly if Ketel is able to make those plays, and he just didn't.
He also hit into the game-ending double play. But, of course, the reason why I'm setting all of this up is to let you know that much to this man's chagrin, Ketel Marte is our king snake. And I know he's not a fan of it, but 3 for 5 with a home run and 3 RBI. He also scored 2 runs. He was damn near involved in all of the offense tonight. And it sucks that he also was a big reason, if not the sole reason, why they blew the game.
Ketel is charging in on that ball in this picture, just terrified.
No clue what he's going to do with it. Once
there's nobody on base, and he's not sure.
Are we going to first? Are we going to third? Yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this ball.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a little bit to my dismay. Kind of hard for me to sit here and give king snake to the guy that you can, like, if he does not do 2 very particular things, the Diamondbacks probably win this game.
Yeah.
But I mean,
also if he doesn't get that dinger, the Diamondbacks,
yeah, exactly.
You know?
Offensively, like, jokes aside, he was the best player in this game. Like 2 mental lapses defensively that, like Jesse said, don't even count as errors. They basically were, but they weren't.
Thunderbolt 47 says that's crap. He wants Ketel sent down to the minor leagues, but he doesn't know how options work.
Defense.
Well, with how things are going, you could send damn near anyone down there. You could send Ohtani down there, and he'll get a little bit better in Reno.
It's true. Everybody gets better in Reno. Alek Thomas, though, however,
No one's ever said that before.
I know. In game one, I did want to cover that Alek Thomas did come back. The Diamondbacks beat the brakes off the Brewers in game one. So, of course, we didn't go live after that game. But 9-1 in game one. Alek Thomas hits a dinger in his first at bat back at a major league level.
Yeah.
How much do you love to see that?
It was an incredible moment. I mean, you could just see. I think there was some relief there for Alek Thomas in that moment.
I think some relief for all of us, right?
And for everyone. I mean, like I said in our show on Monday, Alek Thomas. If you're looking for a lift for this offense internally, in my mind, Alek Thomas is where that's going to come from. He's your one guy that really has a pretty high ceiling offensively and just hasn't really given you much this season. So, I think the way that he plays down the stretch is going to be really important for this team. And I mean, it was not just the fact that he hit a home run. It was the fact that it was against Corbin Burns, the fact that it went into the second deck, and he pulled it. His swing has been a little bit janky this season, and we haven't really seen him pull the ball with that kind of authority a whole lot this season. So there were a lot of good things for him in that game yesterday. And then, today he was 1 for 4. So I think you're pretty happy with what you've seen so far from Alek Thomas.
Mostly it's just the fact that he's back, right? I mean, doing things at a major league level, I think that's the biggest key there. And I don't know, man. Defensively, we even saw Corbin Carroll kind of make a mistake out there in the outfield that we talked about. Alek Thomas just doesn't make those kind of mistakes. He just plays the outfield defense so smoothly, and he makes it look so easy that when we see these guys kind of struggle with a ball at the wall like we saw with Carroll there, it doesn't seem to make much sense when we've seen such great defense out of those guys. They also got some love on the MLB Network today where they were talking about them being the fastest trio of outfielders in baseball. McCarthy and Corbin Carroll both in the 99th percentile for speed. Alek Thomas 84th percentile for speed.
Slacking.
That is so crazy.
I know it doesn't even make sense because I feel like he I didn't know Alek Thomas was the slow one in that group.
Yeah, I didn't know he was that much slower. I thought he would have been a little higher. Speaking of slow, Yelich's just sad attempt at trying to get that ball.
That was pretty weird. The second hitter of the game, and Ketel Marte comes up and just hits a fly ball. It kind of skied down the left field line, and Christian Yelich just
kind of very nonchalantly
jogged over there and watched it land and bounce into the stands. It was very bizarre.
It didn't it didn't look like it was gonna stay in, right? Like you brought up the stats on that ball. It absolutely had like the worst XBA
it had a very low XBA, but XBA doesn't take into account what direction you hit the ball in.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
If you hit it, down the line like that, it has a better chance of landing. And Christian Yelich probably should have at least sprinted for a little while on his way to that ball.
At least for one stride. Just take one long stride and you might get there.
And I mean, even that ball that we were talking about, Ketel earlier, man, he made something. It was kind of a similar play where it seemed like he was just moving in slow motion and the runner beats him out. I know he should have gone to second, like you said, Jesse, but it's the indecisiveness. I still think he could have gotten the guy at first if he already had it set in his mind that that's where he was going to go once he picked up the ball.
Only thing you can't do there is just not make a decision. And that's exactly what Ketel did. And I kind of wonder if he was if maybe that got in his head a little bit in the next play, it kind of snowballed on him. I feel
like, I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with how good of a fielder Ketel Marte is. I think those were just his brain just stopped working, which I guess good fielders don't do, but it didn't feel like it was because he doesn't have the skill to be a good fielder. It just seemed like he had a really bad mental lapse where he just kind of froze for a little bit, which again doesn't really happen to good fielders, but it's a different kind of being bad at fielding, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
The other thing I will say is that Kyle Nelson has just not been good for the Diamondbacks.
Oh, yeah.
Recently.
It's not just this game. It
goes back
a few
Torrey
outings.
continues to use Kyle Nelson in spots like this that are just really hard. I mean, he came in with the bases loaded and nobody out. Even if you do have good stuff and your location is good, that's a really hard situation for anyone to come into. Personally, I don't really love the decision to put... I mean, this D-backs bullpen's been okay recently. There are some other guys who have who have performed pretty well lately. Kyle Nelson is not really one of them
in that situation. Playing manager. I know you don't like to put on your manager hat too much. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe Andrew Chafin theoretically would have been available in this game. I did hear a report about Andrew Chafin potentially injuring himself while power shagging in the outfield.
Oh no.
That was a story that I heard today. But I think he threw a bullpen. I think he was fine, but I don't know for sure if he was available. I think he probably was. I would have probably liked him more in that situation. But
Dre
theoretically could have been available. I mean, it was a lefty at the plate, so maybe the D-backs wanted a lefty. I know Joe Mantiply pitched yesterday. But yeah, I mean, Kyle Nelson at this point, he still has a 3.04 ERA, but he's come in so many times in situations where he's just trying to get 1 or 2 outs, and he's got a bunch of inherited runners on the base paths. And you look at some of the other numbers for him this season. Opposing batters are hitting 279 against him this year with a 342 on base and a 452 slugging percentage. Those are not really good numbers for a back end reliever, using in a really key spot like this in the game. So, he was so good for the D-backs last year, and has been a really positive addition to the franchise as a whole since he came over from Cleveland.
And I think that's it, because we do that, right? We do that with players, and I think managers aren't immune from doing that, where you don't really want to give up on a guy, but after a certain point, you're not looking at his recent performances as much as you're remembering what he's done for you in the past and hoping that he gets back to that point, right? Like that's the Diamondbacks held their breath on Madison Bumgarner quite a bit in that case, right? Because every once in a while, Mad Bum would be good. It gives you that look. You feel like maybe he's getting back right, and then things fall apart again. Kyle Nelson, it was very good for this team last year. He was at one point one of the only bullpen arms that Torrey could really rely on, but not this year. And I don't think that that's been the case as of late. Cogs in the comment asked, can we swap Kyle Nelson for Kevin Ginkel? And I don't think that is very much out of the question.
That is a reasonable question. Yeah, I mean, the D-backs did just send down Kevin Ginkel with a sub-3 ERA.
Yeah.
And a guy who'd been pitching really well recently.
It felt like it was just due to the fact that he had options left and not due to anything he was doing wrong. And honestly, the Diamondbacks, we talked about it. They're in this kind of win now mode where they're going to need to make, moves like this. They're going to need to change direction when a guy isn't working out. And Kevin Ginkel, he was giving them some quality innings out of the bullpen. So who knows? But based on your guys' request, we went ahead and swapped out the King Snake. So Ketel Marte, no longer our King Snake. Let's go. We're going to give our King Snake to Cogs.
Really?
Cogs is there. We're giving it to Cogs.
Let's go, Cogs.
We're switching it to Cogs. So Cogs gets our King Snake.
So 2 games attended. So I guess
he's
that
in
makes
Milwaukee.
sense. He was there yesterday.
Yeah, he was there. That's that he got Alek Thomas's autograph on his Team Mexico hat.
And then Alek Thomas hit a home run.
Yep, and then Alek Thomas hit a home run. So he had a pretty electric afternoon on Monday. But today he had to witness that game in person. So he gets our King Snake. And see, that's what happens when you're here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. You can literally change the direction of this show with your comments. So that's what happened. And of course, we thank you. And AZ Sports Girl 224, don't think I don't see your profile picture and find it to be delightful. But we thank you guys for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Don't miss out on all this goodness. Subscribe right now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss when any of our shows go live. And also, leave us a little thumbs up. We always like that. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, please subscribe there if you haven't done so yet, and leave us a review. We love that feedback. But more than anything, we love when you guys join us as a PHNX diehard member. Become part of the PHNX family today. Not only do you get your membership paid for instantly by all the wonderful benefits you get out of the gate, including a free piece of merchandise from the PHNXlocker.com, 20% off all future purchases, that ranch card from Dobson Ranch Golf Course. You also get that $50 gift certificate from Mountain Mike's Pizza, and so much more. But on top of that, you get benefits like access to our members-only Discord lounge, Jesse's newsletter, Full Count, and all the newsletters from all of our wonderful writers around here, including the one and only Girth, who will give you 40 trade predictions for the Phoenix Suns. Jesse, he's going to write 41. He's going 41 trade predictions for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah. I mean, to pull back the curtain, I have a very long list of Diamondbacks trade targets. and it's not all that far away from 40. We're closing in on 40.
We're chatting about it, and he's adding more to the list every single day. So don't think that we're not going to outdo Girth over there on the Suns. But
can you give the people what the trade for Shohei Ohtani is?
Yeah, what are we getting? What are we giving? Did he not make the list?
You got to include him in the article.
How do you not make the list? You got to have him make the list.
If you have all of these trades, you might just throw one in where they trade Corbin Carroll for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. If the Angels were not like actually sort of playing well right now and like actually maybe in the mix for a playoff spot, maybe I would have just for kicks and giggles thrown Shohei Ohtani in there. But I don't think you're gonna see him.
He's too much of a realist. But see, you get all of that. You get all of that wonderful realism by being a diehard. So go ahead and join us today. Get your diehard membership over at gophnx.com. Speaking of articles, Nick Picoro from azcentral.com had a very interesting article involving his conversation with Mike Hazen and Mike Hazen's comments about the trade deadline. Based on this article, it sounds a bit like the trade market is not going to be very fruitful. And we feared this because of two reasons. One, there are a lot of teams in baseball that are still in it, and the trade deadline is right around the corner. And the second reason being that honestly, teams don't want to give up much. They don't want to give up much of their major league talent. Everybody wants to trade prospects, and nobody wants to trade major league talent. And the Diamondbacks are not in the market at this time for prospects. I also blame the goddamn Philadelphia Phillies. I blame them as well, because what they did in the playoffs last year makes anybody in baseball hope that all they get is a wild card spot at the very least, and that anything can happen, because that has to be in the minds of a lot of executives in baseball. I know that sounds like I'm saying something funny, but man, when you do see a team like the Phillies that kind of played mediocre baseball during the regular season find a way to get hot in August and September, make their way into the playoffs, you can't help but think we could be that team too. A lot of teams have played well at times this season. Not the Cardinals, not you guys. You guys don't get to be included. But
the Cardinals have won 4 in a row.
I know.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Is like, as far as the trade market is concerned, it's very weird because either the divisions are so bad that anyone in the division seems like they can make it, or you get the AL East where the last place team is 4 games above 500.
Yeah,
like
that's
how
crazy.
Are they supposed to? And Jesse and I were talking about this earlier. Like the Red Sox, if they're being realistic, probably should be of the mindset of a seller, but still. They're 4 games above 500.
They've won 6 in a row.
They've won 6. They just beat the Twins today 10-3, I think. Like, they've been on a roll. They swept the Yankees last weekend.
Well, and Jesse brought up the Rays are playing mediocre baseball now. Yeah. The Rays were red hot when the season started.
And they're still 51-25.
Right. It's going to take a lot for them to not be at least in the playoff race or the playoff hunt. But, I mean.
Yeah, it would really take a lot.
It'd take a lot. Right.
And
I'm just saying, like, with the way that they are in that division, much like us, like, there comes a point where we have to start playing the Padres and the Dodgers again. We have the red hot Giants coming into town this weekend, and they are scarier right now than even the Dodgers are, to be honest. They're playing tremendously good baseball, and they're much like the Diamondbacks. They're a young, exciting team that is playing way better than they expected to, and just have an unfounded confidence right now in their team. The same way the D-backs have this just almost ignorant confidence in themselves, where they don't really know that they shouldn't be good, and they don't care about like predictions and what people say. They're just out there trying to play the best baseball they can have. And, like Corbin Carroll said, he had to put down the Fortnite because, wins, ball games, got to win ball games. Right. So they're focused. But these comments from Mike Hazen are interesting considering his position on the trade market and how earlier he was talking about how aggressive this team was intending to be.
Yeah, he said, so kind of along the lines of what we were talking about earlier with the difficulties in the market. He said, there are 10 plus teams that are telling us they don't know what it's going to look like. Not much you can do with that. You can express ideas. You can talk through things. You can get, we might do something like this, something like that. But I'm skeptical of the amount of true sellers that may exist.
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of go into more specifics on that, looking around the league, like which teams can we firmly put into the seller category at this point? Yeah, I mean the Rockies, but the Rockies are not a good baseball team, and they don't really.
Who do you want?
And they also operate in this weird way where it seems like they rather than trading Daniel Bard, they extended him, and they just kind of play by different rules. I don't think there's
play by different rules.
There's no other NL West team, right? The Padres, Dodgers, Giants,
even if there
D-backs.
was, trading in division is not.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an option anyway. If you go to the Central. The Reds have now won 10 games in a row, as some people have said in the comments. They're not going anywhere.
I mean, even the Oakland A's have cooled off, right, Shawn?
Yeah, the former best team in baseball, hottest team in baseball. Excuse me.
But yeah, I mean, in the Central, maybe the Cardinals are at that point, even though they've won 4 in a row. I mean, they're still 12 under 500. So maybe you have the Cardinals, you have the Nationals. Maybe the Mets would put themselves in that category at this point. Although with Steve Cohen there,
no shot.
I don't.
Yeah, he said he's not giving up on this.
Yeah, I don't think so. And then you go to the American League. I guess the Royals you could put in that category, but the Royals are a very bad baseball team outside of a couple relievers. I don't think they're going to offer much. The White Sox are one of the more interesting teams because they do have Giolito. They do have some interesting relievers. They do have Dylan Cease if they were willing to move him. But yeah, you can see pretty clearly what Mike Hazen is talking about. You look around the league, there's really only a handful of teams, at least as of now, which granted, we're still, 6 weeks away from the trade deadline. But as of now, it's still very unclear where the Diamondbacks would be looking to trade. So basically what Hazen told Nick Picorio the overall story here is, as for the moment, as we don't really know what's going to happen with the trade deadline, we just have to focus on the internal things. We just have to focus on getting specifically our starting pitchers right. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Ryne Nelson, needing to take this step forward that the D-backs seem to believe he can take, getting Brandon Pfaadt back up to the pitcher that a lot of us expected him to be when he was originally called up. Dre Jameson continuing to take steps forward. The D-backs do have some pieces here internally that could be a big boost down the stretch. And they might need to rely on those guys a little more than they would like to, given the state of the trade market right now.
Well, and I mean, there's a couple other names we haven't talked about much, but like Slade Ciccone and Blake Walston. And I know, a couple of these guys are still a little bit farther off, but they might start looking to maybe a Carlos Vargas to come up into the bullpen, even though he hasn't been very good lately.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know with Justin Martinez. I mean,
it's been a little. Martinez has been better of late, I think, but his full season numbers down there are still pretty rough.
It feels like there's when they're saying that they really mean that they're going to look like within the minor league system. And to be honest, they still have some very good options in there that they haven't even tapped into yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if they swing and miss on the trade market, how they adapt, and if those changes that he's talking about are just to, like you said, getting the guys that are currently part of the starting rotation right.
Yeah.
Or if it involves going to a Brandon Pfaadt or going to some of their other options that they might have in a minor league level.
For the record, I do think that getting a starting pitcher at the trade deadline, I still think it's pretty possible.
I do too.
That's more just me personally, but I still think it will probably happen if the D-backs are still in the position that they're in now.
I think it's smart to temper expectations, though, because I feel like Mike Hazen's being honest, and Mike Hazen has always been fairly honest about these type of situations, and he's always said when things have changed. And I mean, we knew that. This isn't even new information to us because we discussed this exact topic, I believe, last week, about what the trade market's going to look like and how so many of these teams being in it makes for a very fun season, but it makes for a very difficult situation when the trade deadline comes around. If a bunch of teams are still hovering around, being less than 4 games back in their division and a couple of games out of the wild card spot. So
it feels like they're going to, if they get a starting pitcher, it feels like he's coming from the AL Central. Right, because I feel like the AL Central, you got Erod, you've got Giolito, you got Cease, you got Bieber. I feel like the AL Central is in a very different place than the NL Central, where the NL Central, they're all kind of bad, but none of them came into this season necessarily expecting to be bad. No, I mean, Cincinnati doesn't expect to be this good, but they're all trying to work towards something. Whereas the AL Central, I feel like a lot of those teams are much more loaded to blow it up.
It's still the same situation. The White Sox 4.5 out, Tigers 4 out, Guardians 1 out, Twins, 2 games over 500, or under 500, and they are leading the division at 2 games under 500. Get rid of these divisions. This is nonsense. I hate it.
A lot of this too is kind of a byproduct of Major League Baseball expanding playoffs, right?
Correct.
If you only had, the 2 wild cards set up like we had before, it's a pretty different landscape right now than if you have 3. I mean, obviously that wouldn't fix the problem in the divisions, the NL Central and the AL Central. I mean, I guess that would still be a madhouse. But a lot of those other teams, like we mentioned the Red Sox earlier, if there's only 2 wild card spots and you're the Boston Red Sox, you probably just got to pack it in and acknowledge that the chance of you beating the Orioles, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Angels, the Astros, the Mariners, like you've only got 2 spots. It's probably pretty unrealistic. But with 3 spots, I think it's a lot easier for teams to talk themselves into that.
But on the other hand, I almost wonder if like the presence of the AL East makes those AL Central teams like, all right, it's either win the division or we're not making the playoffs if we're being realistic.
Well,
and so you look at teams like that, and that probably opens them up a little bit more. Where like if you're the White Sox or the Tigers, you're like, okay, we may be 4.5 games back in the division,
but it's not like you have a.
Can we really compete with the Twins?
You don't have a safety parachute.
There is no coming in second because we're not making the playoffs. We come in second.
Yeah, like if you're the Tigers, you're 4 games out of the division and you're 8.5 out of the wild card. It's not even close.
I just spilled my beer on myself, which I wouldn't do if TSA wouldn't have confiscated my beer bat. I was going to do like Cody from the CHGO Cub show and maybe drink it after wins out of the bat. But apparently it was what was a Wrigley Field bat? Is that not good? They don't have beer bats at Chase, do they? Never seen one.
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so.
Why don't we have beer bats at Chase Field? This is something else we need to address.
I think they do a talking stick though. I may be making that up, but I feel like I remember seeing them in spring training.
I feel like you're making it up, but you might not be. I'm not allowed to drink when I'm working, but I'm allowed to drink when I'm working here in this building, and more importantly, I'm allowed to drink when I'm working and I'm doing the BetMGM Sportsbook app. Because you can't stop me from betting on the Oakland A's. I did it tonight, and of course, I lost. But you can do whatever you want on the BetMGM Sportsbook app. It is a fantastic way to make sports even more fun, and you don't miss out on the BetMGM's Swing for the Fences offer because it's only going to make your bets even better. You can get this offer in 3 easy steps. Log into your Sportsbook app, play the BetMGM MLB free-to-play game from now until September 7th. You're just a batter, and you pick an area of the strike zone. Depending on which area you pick, you will get a single, double, triple, or a home run, or you might pop out, and you will receive the prize associated with that type of hit. Prizing must be used on MLB and expires in 24 hours, so don't hesitate. Use it immediately and make yourself some money. If you haven't signed up for the BetMGM app yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live. For our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details, and now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
Also, speaking of our sponsors and our wonderful partners, check out Saturday Neon. It's a company started by 2 friends and former college roommates that make officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs. Perfect for your bar, for your background on your Zoom calls, or if you do a podcast about maybe college sports. I don't know. Mike Luke has one of those, so he would tell me to back the A, I'm sure right now, but it's officially licensed for 19 select schools. I'm not backing the A. I'll never back the A, by the way. Officially licensed for 19 select schools, including Arizona, Colorado, Alabama, Wisconsin, Auburn, and many more. Again, great for man caves. And of course, you can get a great offer by going to SaturdayNeon.com and using our code of PHNX for 10% off your order today. Free shipping for orders over $200. We're done talking about this terrible baseball game and the Diamondbacks not making moves at the trade deadline, and we want to talk about more the Diamondbacks being in the All-Star game. The Diamondbacks have some guys that are leading the way. Well, not completely leading the way, but they are up there, and they look like they might end up as starters. Potentially a Corbin Carroll starting in the All-Star game. How would you guys feel about that wonderful, wonderful honor for the young man from Seattle?
I mean, it'd be cool for him, but at this point, it's like duh.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty egregious if it didn't happen.
It sounds like a neat story, but then also statistically, it's like he better be. What the hell are you doing if he's not a starter in that, right?
It's at this point, it's like he's gonna be an all-star as long as he's healthy until the All-Star game. He's going to be starting in the All-Star game for the National League.
It feels right that he surpassed Lourdes, right, Jesse? Considering he was at one time trailing Lourdes.
It would have been kind of hilarious if the Toronto fans continued to.
I wanted it. I wanted him to do it because, like I was saying earlier to somebody, I forget. I was like, "Listen, if Lourdes gets voted in as a starter, that's his only chance of making the All-Star game. They'll find a way to get Corbin Carroll in the All-Star game if he's not voted in as a starter. So then you would have got both of them. But
I mean, Lourdes might have a shot. Like if he kind of bounces back and has a few good weeks, he might have a shot.
He did have like the third highest batting average in baseball there for a little bit or something crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, Lourdes is a fun story, but Corbin is the guy, obviously. That should be there. We know that there's a good chance Zach Gallen will get selected as well. But let's take a look at these all-star voting updates. There's one very egregious one, and of course, it's right there at the top. Christian Walker, the guy who is tied for 4th in National League, or he might even be sole possession of 4th in the National League in RBI, not in the top 10 at all. Ketel Marte, 6th for second baseman. Perdomo, 8th. Josh Rojas, inexplicably 9th. For third baseman when Christian Walker, again, not in the top 10. Don't know what's going on with there, but it's kind of hilarious. Yeah. Josh Rojas, also a candidate for relief pitcher. Corbin Carroll, 3rd for outfielders. Gurriel, 4th. Gabriel Moreno coming in at 6th for catchers. And Evan Longoria even making it on the list at 10th for DH, which, again, another surprising. Yeah. Right? I mean, I know the Diamondbacks are in first place in the National League, but we don't usually get this kind of voting love. So it is a bit surprising to see some of those guys actually make the top 10 of their voting categories.
Well, it's amazing what happens when you make a trade with the Toronto Blue Jays and you sign a player in his 15th season who has quite a bit of name cred, right? I mean, just played with the San Francisco Giants.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the Christian Walker thing is pretty wild to me. He is 4th in all of baseball for first baseman in wins above replacement, according to Fangraphs. It's Freddie Freeman, Paul Goldschmidt, Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays, and then Christian Walker.
And make sense.
Same was true last year. I think he was 3rd. I think it was Freddie Freeman, Paul Goldschmidt, and then Christian Walker. Christian Walker pretty clearly is the 3rd best overall first baseman in the National League at this point. And for him to not be even in the top 10 on this list is unfortunate. So he has been on a tear lately. So hopefully people will kind of recognize that and give him the love that he deserves.
I have what I feel like is, I know you're going to think that this is like not a real question, but I think it's a real question. Is it because his name is Christian Walker? Is it because it's like a boring name that just is easy to kind of forget? Like, I'm not knocking the man. I'm not knocking his name. But it's like, is it because it's an unexciting name and people are just like not very memorable?
Christian Walker is. Yeah. His name is Christian Walker. He's Christian Walker.
It's Walker.
The most like
the man built all of his furniture in his goddamn house. Why aren't you voting for him?
He's the most everyman dude there is, and he plays probably the least sexy position in the infield.
And he plays it so sexy.
And he plays it in Arizona.
So sexy.
I understand why this is happening. It doesn't make it any better, but I understand how we got to this point.
It infuriates me.
The Antonellis, I think, are behind this. It seems only right. It would be in line with the other war crimes they've committed.
It seems like they have agenda against Christian Walker, and I can't argue with that.
It's aggravating, man. Like, at the end of the day, it's hard. Like, Christian Walker deserves recognition for how good he is, and he's clearly not getting it from fans. And, I mean, it is a popularity contest at the end of the day, but he deserves recognition for what he's doing. And also, Cogs was asking, I think, what happens if Rojas makes the All-Star game when he's in the minors. The precedent in the NHL is that he will play in the All-Star game.
I don't think we're going to need to worry about
it. I don't think so either. I'm just saying.
We'll cross that bridge if we get there.
I'm just saying.
I don't foresee us being.
Precedent has that he would play still. And that's how it works in other sports.
Well, speaking of the All-Star game, the hats were dropped. The official All-Star game caps were dropped. Let's take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks cap and decide if we actually like it. What are your thoughts on this mint green job? Because to be honest, I kind of like it, you guys.
Yeah, I didn't really like the mint green when I first saw it, honestly, but it's kind of grown on me. I don't hate it.
I like the stripe on the side and the patch a lot. I really like that part of it. What
Shawn
are your
doesn't.
thoughts,
Shawn
Shawn?
clearly does
Shawn
not
is
like it.
groaning.
So
Please give us your.
I mean, it's a lot of this is going to depend on what the jerseys look like, and I really need to see the back / other side of this hat because it looks like the pattern continues as it stands.
It does not. The pattern does not continue. The pattern just goes from that seam,
that panel,
yeah, seam to seam, just like it is on the front there. It does not go around the back.
Oh, I hate it then. I very much hate it. I just
Wow.
The lines.
You wanted the pattern to go longer.
I did because I thought it might go into some like mountain stuff and like that could be cool.
I mean, there is some mountain stuff on the patch. I think,
but the patch is just uninspiring to me. It's just a diamond. And then I don't understand when the lines are following the diamond. Like it's just so unsettling to me. I don't like how it looks. And then I don't the white star kind of bothers me because it just doesn't pop enough. But that's a minor thing. Lines just don't work for me.
Karen says purple and mint green go well together. She wanted me to know that, so I think she's trying to hint that I should buy this cap. I'm totally going to buy this hat.
I got to see how the jerseys. I got to see what it looks like with the jerseys. That will.
You know,
it's fair.
Last year, I kind of said that I hated the fact that I loved last year's combos so much that I didn't even want them to change it.
I'm trying to remember what was last year.
It was just real simple. It was like black and gold.
That was the LA, right?
Yes, I love black and gold.
I love those. Everyone had their own teams, but
it was great, and it was super simple, but it was like really slick looking, and more importantly, it really had the look of like all-star. You know, like an all-star team. And,
I mean, prestigious.
The only concern I have with this is that, like, especially when you look at all the caps, of course the logo looks the best on this hat because it's, you know, and like, don't get me wrong, I mean, as it should, considering it's where they're playing the All-Star game, but like last year, even being in LA, it's not like they picked Dodger blue for every team.
I was just about to say, these are by far the best All-Star jerseys of all time.
Right. Last year, when they had like the white with just the gold logo or the black with the gold logo.
I hate the feeling that they feel the need to put this little star on the helmet. Like,
you don't like that either?
That's unnecessary. I mean, it's an All-Star game.
You know what I would like is if they got like stars for how many
that's what I was gonna say.
Appearances they've had. If they have multiple stars on their hat,
I would like, because that's what they do in the NBA. Their All-Star jerseys have their number of All-Star games on the back, and like that's how I think it should be. Like that would be a nice touch. But I just don't like having one star there. It's just like makes it look very like flaggy. Like it looks like something that should be on a flag.
Sure, I get what you're saying.
Like almost
like where they have like a weird logo and then like
a
star there.
I don't like it.
I get what you're saying. Well, we need to get out and vote for Christian Walker. So I don't know how to motivate people to do that, but
people need to vote for everybody
really, because this is getting close, and we don't want Padres in there. We don't want Padres to be a part of it.
Yeah, Ketel I think deserves to be higher than 6th. You know, his mental lapses tonight notwithstanding. And the other thing I'll say is the outfield vote continues to be very important. The way this is very likely going to work is Ronald Acuna, as the leading vote getter, is going to be a starter automatically.
For sure.
This is a 2-phase process, so it's a little bit more complicated now. So Ronald Acuna, as the leading vote getter, automatically becomes a starter. And then what they do is they take the next 4 highest vote getters in the outfield to the next round. So as of right now, both Corbin Carroll and Lourdes would be in there. There's one spot after them, which I believe is Juan Soto right now, that would also be in there. But they need to stay in that block of 4 guys after Ronald Acuna in order to advance. And then when they do advance, if that happens, then there's a 72-hour period where people vote again, and then that's what nails down who the starters are. So the job is very much not done here.
The job is not done. We need to mobilize and get this taken care of.
What happened when we just voted? Like just the 3 guys who got the most votes.
Those days are over.
I know I'm sounding like an old man.
It is a little bit.
What about those days where we punched it out of a thing and there were Chads? Remember when we got Chads all over the place?
What is the what? Yeah. Why?
Yeah,
I think they're just trying to. It's a good question. I don't really know what the impetus for this change was.
Money.
They've done it for a while, but yeah, it feels like maybe it adds a little bit of drama.
You know what it was? It's the goddamn Kansas City Royals. They ruined everything, and ever since then, they've been trying to make sure that thing never happens again.
I feel like we could get into a situation though. Like I feel like I kind of was talking about how Arizona doesn't get enough love in the Christian Walker thing. I feel like Arizona though is so like people don't have an opinion about Arizona to the point where there could be a situation where baseball fans are just like, let's just get 2 Diamondbacks in the outfield for the hell of it.
Let's do it.
And they like, because Corbin's going to get there. And they're like, let's just vote Lourdes because it's fun.
Well, because they're going to be like, you know what? Screw Juan Soto. I'm voting for this guy.
Right? So
we definitely have the city of Toronto behind us, so
Yes.
that's good to know. And if Toronto residents come into town, make sure to hit me up. I will hook you up with some OGs. Weed's legal here in this country, specifically
well,
here in
Toronto
the States.
aren't. It's legal there too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
in Toronto.
It's legal everywhere, I guess, but I don't know. It's getting toasty here in the Valley, and of course, if you are here, you got to check out our friends from OGs because they are the best. They are the best that Arizona has to offer as far as our edibles are concerned, and they have their brand new limited edition pink lemonade gummies that drop tomorrow. I've already had one though.
Did you?
So,
I haven't tried it yet.
My God, it's delicious.
Trust.
They're so good. They're so good. And yes, I will tell you, they are fresh. They are tangy. They are lemony. They have a hint of red berry, plenty of sugar, and they are here to flavor your summer. So make sure to check out OGs wherever you get your wonderful edibles at. And of course, don't forget to check out their Aquaberries Sleep Edition gummy, their Strawberries and Cream Happy Balance gummy, and so much more. But pink lemonade, don't sleep on it. Last year's, I think, summer flavor was the pina colada, if I'm not mistaken. Right, yeah. That one was delicious. I want to get some non-medicated ones just for Jesse to eat so he can try them because they're just a good candy. Forget the fact that they make you feel wonderful. They're just a delicious candy. OG's doesn't miss when it comes to flavor and effects, so get your pink lemonade gummies while you can. Again, limited edition. Check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at ogsbrands. Also, check out our friends at More Furniture who want to hire Jesse away because of the way that he just has made Chase Lounge numbers go through the roof right now. Sales are incredible over there. But of course, we'll convince you to buy other things for your home other than that, like actual useful pieces of furniture, including some wonderful recliners as well as like a nice TV setup. I saw they had like a wall display one that kind of like went around your TV on the wall, and it was really neat. I considered getting it. I have space issues in my house though. So make sure you check out morefurniture.com if you have space issues. And of course, if you get anything from their website, make sure to get that white glove delivery service, have it brought to your house, and don't lift a finger and tell them where to put it and they'll take care of it for you. Save big on the best furniture in the Valley when you head to morefurniture.com. Well, that's all we got, guys. Hope we made your night a little better after watching that disgraceful meltdown that the Diamondbacks had there in the 7th inning.
You got Zach Gallen on the mound tomorrow.
We got Zach Gallen on the mound tomorrow, but we also have a watch along. So a lot of forces working against each other here. Make sure you guys pull up for that. We will be here tomorrow at first pitch. And then we will also be doing our show after that. We have 4 post-game shows this week. So trying to give you all that we got. They snuck that Washington Nationals makeup game in on it. So we can't get around that one, so we might as well do a post game that day too. So make sure to join us all week long right here on PHNX. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. This guy next to me is at Shawn_DePaz. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. The maniac behind the Mac over there is Damon, and he is at Damon Dog DAWG. And then you got to do a little at the end. Of course, our show is at PHNX_Dbacks, and all roads lead to PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We love you. We appreciate your time. We thank you so much for stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when Ketel picks a fucking direction.